So a lot of you chose the robot or the house modeling option, so I'm going to combine them both. First thing I'm going to start off by saying is that there are different modes in Blender, and we're going to be using two in particular. One of them is object mode, which is where you can manipulate the overall object. And the second one is edit mode. Edit mode is where you go inside the object and you change specific things. So you can change the vertices, you can change the edges, and you can change the faces. Now, within all of those things, you can also use the tools we talked about last week. So we can use the G or the Move tool, the Go tool, I suppose you could call it. You can use the Scale tool. So you can see it scales there. And of course, you can use the Rotate tool. So let's go back to object mode and grab a new cube. The first thing we want to do is look at a particular robot that you'd like to create, because it's really good to go off a picture. So I'm going to Google robot, I'm going to go to images, and I'm going to decide on a robot that I particularly like, and I'm going to try and emulate it. So let's find something relatively easy. I'm going to do this guy. Okay, so let's just start off with a basic head. So grab a head there. Then I'm going to add a body. Then we're going to add some legs. Like that. So I've got my robot's legs done, and now I'm going to grab his arms. Okay, so that's the basic outline of the robot. I'm just going to add some features to the face. So before I go ahead and do anything, I want to just make sure everything has its own material. So if you'll notice down here, there's this little color tab here. So just make sure everything has its own individual material. And this just makes it really easy to color everything later, because you'll notice every single material that you're adding here has a different number. So see, that one's 6, that one's 7. So everything will have a different color, and this will let you change things more exactly later on. So now I'm just going to add a plane and sort of make that into some eyes and a face. So I'll just pause. Oh, no, it's right, I'll let you watch it. So now we're going to go into edit mode, because I want to make the eyes pop out. So to make the eyes pop out a little bit, you basically just you go into edit mode and you press E, and that it, it extrudes it, it makes it pop out. So yeah, it's popped out a tiny bit there, which I like. You can do that from the square, but I just thought I'd show you one function of edit mode, and that's basically extruding. Just move them up so that I can see everything. Great. And just a reminder to add materials to the eyes as well, so that you can make them different to the head. So once you're happy with your face and you've added different things on, you select two things at once by pressing Shift. So I've selected the entire head, and I'm just going to press Command J so that it's all one object. So when I move the head, everything moves together. This is important because it just makes it easier for when you animate everything later. Now I'm just going to go ahead and copy this so that I have two robots. So that's Shift D. So from here I have the two robots. Now they're not animated yet. We do this at the end. It's just easier because our process of how this is going is this is where they're going to end up at the end. So it's easier to animate from a specific location than a random one, which is what we're going to do right at the end. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to build a really simple house around the robots. So this should hopefully show you a few more tools, especially the edit one when we get to the roof. Basically, I'm sure you can tell I'm just using the GXGZ tool. I'm not really doing it too exactly because when you're only taking everything from one camera angle, things don't really have to look that amazing to give you the effect you want. So don't think too hard about it. There we go, got the walls, just create a roof. Okay, now once you've created things, just remember to give everything a material. So you'll probably notice my messy modeling because you can see lines everywhere, but for the purpose of this animation, it's not really going to matter. Alright, so now let's move into making the roof, which is probably something that you might not be familiar with. What shall I do? I think I'll duplicate that. I'll rotate it, shrink it. Oh, no, I want to maintain. Okay, so I've got one half of the roof. I'm going to duplicate that, rotate it around. So you can see all I've really been doing is really simple modeling. Not the most exact, but for the purpose of this, that'll do. Okay, so we really want to head into making that triangle for the roof, which is probably what you've been wondering, how do I make triangles? So for that, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to grab the cube, no, I'm going to add a plane. I'm just going to move it up so you can all see it. Now, here's my plane. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to grab a corner here. I'm going to press GX. So I'm moving down, should be halfway, and then GY. And move that in. And eventually it becomes a triangle. Now you want to make sure that everything is a solid object, because right now it's 2D. So once again I have to press the E to extrude it slightly. Just good practice, and for your modeling it just works better with the light to have a solid object. So now I'm just going to flip the triangle up. Now I don't like the top, so I'm going to go into edit mode again and change that around. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have extruded that. A 3D shape, if you try and pull one corner down, you'll notice that only one side of the face is being pulled down, so you need to select both. I'm going to select GZ because I'm moving on the Z axis, and just move that down. Going back into object mode, I hope by switching between the two you can kind of see why they've got different functions. So that's so whenever I want to edit the actual object itself, I made sure that I'm in edit mode, but when I just want to do kind of a bigger scaling of the object, that's when it's better to be in object mode, when you want to move the whole thing around. So yeah, hopefully that shows you a bit about edit mode. So I'm going back into object, I'm duplicating it, I'm pulling it back. We just built a really rough house. But yeah, I'm going to show you how to animate that now. We've already covered this last lesson, but we're going to do it more exactly for how to make everything combined together into one big mesh. So I'm just going to presume that you want the house to come on last, because it would make a lot of sense for it to come on first, because then you couldn't see the robots. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out the timeline to say 60, and I'm going to make sure everything in here is locked onto 60. So 60 down here. So I click, I press I, and then go to lock rot scale. Click, press I, lock rot scale. Click, press I, lock rot scale. Click, press I, lock rot scale. Great, I'm pretty sure that's everything. So just to check, I'm going to click everything and make sure there's a little yellow dot there, which means that I've keyframed that in there. Okay, looks like it's all good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move it back to 0. And this is just sort of going to be fun. I'm just going to put it somewhere random, rotate it in a random way, and click I. So what's actually happening is it will go back into our original position. And so that's why I wanted us to always start in the spot we want to end up, because it makes it really easy just to create some fun stuff. So I'm going to pop that over there and rotate it weird and press I, lock rot scale. I'm going to grab that, pull it down there, rotate it weird, I, lock rot scale. Grab this, shove that over there, I, lock rot scale. grab that over there, shove that over there, I, lockward scale, grab that, shove it over there, I, lockward scale, grab, shove, I, lockward scale, G, do some rotating, I, lockward scale, grab that over there, I, lockward scale, grab that, shove it over there, I, lockward scale. Okay, so now what we have is the entire house, wow, except that, because I didn't lock that on 60. So that's fun. Alright, I'm just going to quickly move that back. But yeah, so you're kind of seeing how painful it would be if I didn't. Oh, that doesn't actually belong anywhere. Interesting. I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay. Well, that was just a random plane. Okay, never mind. So, Max Play tutorial, as you can see, now the entire house is flying together, which looks really great. But you might want the house to kind of fly in an erratic fashion. So that's when all you need to do is click on the object that you want to change the animation for, and just move that yellow dot somewhere. Like this. Pretty fun. Moving that around. That'll do. Pull that to the start, press play, and you'll notice everything's coming together a little bit differently. Now if you want a much bigger difference, you can drag it out more erratically, and you'll notice that things come together differently. So that's fun. Alright, now let's work on our robots who are currently down here. Now, in order to do our robots, what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, and you'll see that every single cube up here has a name. So, I'm going to go ahead and guess that cube 14 up to cube 21 is the house, because it's all got this animation symbol on it. So that leaves us 1 to 12 that we, okay, when we go to here, you see that you can no longer see what you're animating. So we need to turn off the visibility. You can always get it back later, but you'll see that that's the arm, and that was all of the house. Oops, and I'm just going to turn off the planes too. Great, so now all I have to work with is this. And the robots I want to come sooner, so they have to be before 60. So I'm going to lock them all on 20. So let's just go through individually, click on everything, just because we're getting used to it. Don't worry about selecting the eye. Lock on scale once again. Lock it all on 20. So if you look, it shouldn't be moving at all. But if you look up here, you'll notice everything now has a little animation symbol next to it to tell you that you've animated it. Now, same thing as before, we're just going to create another keyframe at 0 where parts of the robot are zoomed somewhere else. You can probably see now why it's just so important to make sure that you are using the keys really quickly. So I'm just pressing G, hitting I, lockward scale, clicking, pressing G, hitting I, lockward scale, moving, moving, moving over there. Hooray. So when you play it, everything should come together. Now let's turn on the visibility of everything else again. Hit 0, and we should hopefully see the robots form, and then the house. Obviously want a longer animation for that, so as you can probably guess, what I would do is I would just head up to the cubes. So, I wish I remembered which one was which before. You can use visibility to test and what you're looking at. I think I can remember which one it was. Let's just start from here. I'm going to move them much further out. And what this is doing is it's making sure that the house comes together really far away from when the robots come together. So that was the robot, so 13 was the limit. And of course my planes. Okay, now if we play it from the start, the robots should come together and then the house. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now at this point we mentioned that, well, I did mention that I want the robots to turn to each other and hold hands. So pull your marker further from the point where they come together. Let's say up to 40. And we're going to rotate the head around. Hang on. Oh, my eyes are over here. That wasn't great. Okay. Rotate the head around so it's facing the other robot. Hit I, lock what scale. Pick this one. Rotate the head around. I, lock what scale. What you should see now is the robots coming together and turning their heads towards each other. And then we're going to move the arms like this. I, lock what scale. And so now what you have is a great animation of your robots coming together, holding hands, and a house covering them beautifully. So that's really basic modeling. You can add any details to that which you like. I suggest you watch my tutorial on sculpting to add some extra things in. But yeah,